I don't know if you heard that comment. There was a bit of a back and forth between Kirby Smart and Dan Mullen. Not on the surface, they didn't go back and forth, but kind of underlying. And actually, I know most of the people listening to me right now are not big Florida fans, but at the same time, we had a great conversation with David Waters from Gators Breakdown. So check out that when it's released here soon, because David was actually the guy that asked Dan Mullen the question about recruiting that led to him taking some offense to
Yeah,
that and
I
refusing to
know.
answer it.
Yeah, I know plenty of time. I've watched that. I'm a big presser guy, except for Miami. I can't watch many Diaz pressers. I'm sorry, but Mario Cristobal, Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin, Dan Mullen, the Notre Dame head coach. I like to listen to. One of the best ones, honestly, is Penn State's head coach. He's
James Franklin.
amazing.
Okay.
James Franklin is amazing with how he speaks about preparation week in and week out, and how they got beat that week, and there were certain holes in his team that the other team were able to exploit, and they caught us at. I mean, it is he tells a lot, but you could tell he's a talker. He's probably a former teacher, honestly, but he's great with his interviews. But yeah, I watch it, and I watched Kirby Smart in the original comment and the follow up comments after that, where post game of the outside outdoor cocktail party, where he talks about the fact that the difference was they had the better players. Okay, it's not X's and O's, it's Jimmy and Joe's to a certain extent, as far as what he's saying. And a lot of Miami fans have battled back and forth with this, but we all know that elite teams, national championship teams, have both. And that's what you have to do. You're going to have to stack the cupboard bare, but you're also going to have to develop those people. And you're also going to have to call good plays. It's a three-part thing: development, execution, recruiting. They all go together. Okay. The reason why you look at the eliteness of Nick Saban is because he's able to do all of that. Plus, he's also able to manage some of the best coaches to come in and coach and recruit the best of the best. So that's how it all kind of meshed together for him. But I think it's a great point, man. You have to be able to have the best players out there making plays for you. And then not only do they do well the very next year, you got to bring in the best strong side defensive end. And you just landed Kayvon Thibodeau the class before, you got to get Will Anderson the next class. And after Will Anderson, then you turn around and you go get Johnny five-star defensive end. Now you have a mixture where one can play strong, one can play will, one can play will, one can play strong. They both can be on the field on third downs. You move the big one into defensive tackle on third downs, or stand him up and blitz him off the edge. But what you do there is, when you do that, you continuously create great competition in practice, because you cannot ease up. You cannot miss an assignment. You cannot miss class. You can't be late to practice because the young man behind you is nipping at your heels. And it's not about deterring one or down talking one or the other. It's about everyone, iron sharpening iron, and making yourself better. Okay. Now that's a very overused term, and people use it all. Oh man, just keep recruiting. Recruiting, you could call recruits all the time. Can you land them? That's why I get into this debate a lot with people about Mario Cristobal when he was at Bama. It's like, yes, he from 2013 to 2016, he was rated the number one recruiter in the country. So people say, no, he's at Bama. What do you expect? Yes, but that means he's also recruiting the best players and having to compete against the best recruiters in his own conference and nationally. There's a different level of recruit he had to go and get than he would have to go get at Miami, that he had to compete and try to fight for and had to land as the head of recruiting at Alabama. You got to beat Georgia out. You got to beat LSU out. You got to beat Ole Miss and Mississippi State, who's trying to tell them you can come here and play as a freshman. You'll never play at Alabama. You can come here and be our guy. When you go there, you're just an ID number and a jersey number. Okay. You got Ohio State coming in also. You got the West Coast teams coming in. You got Texas and Oklahoma also recruiting against you. And for him to be able to land those guys, it showed a lot to me, as far as he knows what he has to have. He knows what it should look like, and he knows how practices should be ran and should look like. I'm not going to turn this into a Mario Cristobal to the U show, but that's just stuff I'm passionate about, that because Mark, it is important. Okay. You got to have people who know how to do these things if you want to see change. It can't have somebody that's just going to walk in and have a booklet about it, you know, because that's what we're having the last couple of times. Al Golden walks in and he has his Pillars to Success notebook, and it was mind blowing to the administration. Benedict Diaz comes in and he has his whatever term he has for what his plan for pulling things together and rebuilding the University of Miami and fast talking and people are just like, oh wow, he's doing a good job. And Mark, I'll finish out this before we go to the next subject here, and we'll do a recap on the Pitt game here before we do a preview on Georgia Tech. I want to ask you this, Mark. How many times do you believe that real football people hire football people?
I believe it happens much more frequently at the next level in the NFL because there have been true football people that have played the game, coached the game, that have ascended into higher ranks. Not that that's the norm, but it's more common. But at the collegiate level, I think that most of the time, non-football people are hiring football people.
Okay. I've been wondering that because one of the things that gets me is I was one of the people I had on with me, Coach Hayes. He asked me that question, and I was like, kind of mind blown about it because his viewpoint is now there's a guy that's been a former high school head coach in Orlando, and he was on Mario's staff as a defensive assistant on the defensive line, and he's sitting there saying, Hosa, when I got interviewed, I got my playbook right here, and I'm ready to pull it out and break it down. I got my dry erase board to get on a. No, they're sitting there asking you about PR stuff and give you situations. And what would you do if one of your players was doing this? And do you have any disciplinary things in your plan for if this happens and that happens? That's what those people are asking you. They're not asking you how you're going to line up and beat Tallahassee on a 3rd and 7, and it's 2 minutes left on the clock, and you're on offense and you're driving. How are you going to what play are you going to call to get us in the end zone? How are you going to set up your game-winning touchdown play? So what's been happening is, and that's not just at Miami, that's just at any place that isn't elite. I mean, it's only like 4 elite teams in the whole country, only 4 elite programs in the whole country, but it's mind-blowing to think about it like that. So the reason why I think there are so many crappy hires, Mark, is because you don't have football people hiring for football. You have PR people, you have office people. And what I mean by people is men and women. There's female and male athletic directors and assistants that sit in these meetings. Okay, and that's not here to say that a woman doesn't know what makes a good football player, because she might. There's a woman that knows a lot of good damn football. Okay, but what happens as far as the staff that they're required to bring in? What's going to happen with that situation? So I'm happy that Miami is trying to move to a different direction administration wise for us to pull some things together where we're going to have football people making football decisions moving forward.
Well, I would hope, and I'll just liken this to my last interview experience, which was a long, long time ago, but still, I was taken through the ringer for an entire day, and I was basically interviewed for 7 or 8 hours. And I interviewed with this person, then I interviewed with those 2 people, then I interviewed with and they all had their slice of expertise and their angle on it. And I would hope that the same thing was done to a certain extent, maybe not to that extent, but to where you have a collection of people that all have expertise in different areas can then evaluate that head coach. You're going to be paying this individual $5, $6, $7 million a year, and they're going to be running your by far most lucrative sports program. You would think that they would want perspective from a number of people.
Right. And Mark, all I'm saying is they could have had multiple people, half a dozen people interview. But what if Miami is doing what those half a dozen people asked them to do? And it has nothing to do with how to win football games.
Yeah.
It had everything to do with how to clear the name of the University of Miami. Okay, how to get away from being thug you, how to get away from being viewed as Catholics versus convicts. That's what I feel like we've been doing so long on, is trying to run away from that past, when in my opinion, it's far away from us. The 90s Canes did. Butch Davis's Canes didn't do that. Larry Coker's Canes didn't do that. Al Golden's Canes didn't do that. Randy Shannon's Canes didn't do that. Heck, if you want to talk about anything being flashy in your face, the Manny Diaz turnover chain Canes are doing that, but that's on the sideline. That's on our sideline facing our home field crowd or the away crowd on our side of the stadium. So what I'm hoping, and we're being very positive about this moving forward, it just, I want them to understand that you don't have to keep running away from your past, because no matter how much you try, the Raiders are still hated for how they were viewed in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The Canes are going to be hated no matter what. That's just how it is. You continue to run an uplifted program. You continue to have a high graduation rate and fill the NFL and build great people. But you don't have to keep running away, because guess what? Your past is your past. It's there. There's nothing you can do to go back and change the Army fatigue, the DX chops. You can't. It's there. What you can do is continue to build a good future, and that's build a good program based on accountability and high principles, winning football games and doing it together as a unit, as one you. And that's what I believe our next hire is going to be required to have to do, is to build that kind of program and not be afraid of your past, but lean into it and say that was us, but this is us now. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, I would hope in that, again, in that interview process, it being that important with that much money and importance on the line for that particular position, that coach would be asked, you're taking on Florida State, you're down 4, it's 4th and 4, you're in the red zone, there's 52 seconds left in the game, what do you do? But he would also be asked, you get a call at 2 a.m. and one of your players was just, arrested for X, Y, and Z, what are you going to do? Because he's going to have to face both of those situations.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about where people people miss that, man. They miss that once you become the head man, Mark, the last thing you're going to do is call plays and X's and O's, because you are a CEO of a multi-million-dollar business. And what you always have to remember is you represent an institution, not just the football program, but any and everything you do from this point forward represents that entire school, and they care about PR. That's the biggest thing. Unless you're in the SEC and no one cares about PR because they're Republicans, they don't care about PR. You can say whatever you want about them. Where's my money? Where's my money and where's my results? Those are the two things they care about.